Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about The Nice Guys. This is, of course, Shane Black's latest film, which takes us back to a time when Hollywood would make the mid-budget picture. A movie that doesn't have a huge budget, but has two big enough stars to sell its name on, and is usually more about charisma than the story or the concept itself, which is pretty different from how Hollywood really is now. And this reminds me of Hollywood of yesteryear, especially Hollywood of the 1970s. It feels like the kind of movie that Shane Black would really like and own on DVD, and you'd be like, that's even on DVD? What is this? And he probably got it on Warner's Burn on Demand or something like that. It reminds me of things like Hickey and Boggs. It reminds me of films with Burt Reynolds that you're like, wait, he did this between that and that other thing? I didn't even know about this, but it's kind of fun. You like the charisma between the stars and you kind of go with it. And The Nice Guys is like that on steroids in terms of its really smart screenplay and its star charisma. And it reminds you of a time when men were men, even though this film acts like this wasn't a time when men were men. But the idea that now when we think of when men were men, we think of this time, even though at that time they didn't feel that way, even though the men in this film didn't feel that way about men, but whatever, doesn't matter. The Nice Guys is both a nostalgic look back and almost a throwback picture, but also a great example of how that can really work, come together, and probably why so many people like it so much, because it reminds them of a past gone era, and it kind of makes you question why we've left that behind, but also kind of makes you realize why maybe that doesn't work anymore. In 1977 in Los Angeles, a porn star named Misty Mountains dies in a car crash when she drives her car through a family's home, and she dies. And then a week later, Ryan Gosling's character of Holland March has been asked by Misty Mountains' aunt to come and find his niece, who she claims is still alive and isn't dead because she saw her in her apartment and it looked like she was very much alive, even though everyone told her she was dead. And also is looking for a girl named Amelia Kuttner, who is also involved in this somehow, and tries to find Amelia, believing she has some information on it. And then Amelia actually hires Russell Crowe's character of Jackson Healy to get Ryan Gosling's character off her trail. They get in a fight, but then Russell Crowe's character realizes they need to work together to figure out what's going on with this mystery that involves the porn industry, car companies from Detroit, and air pollution, as these guys try to bring down a big Los Angeles conspiracy. Shane Black is known for the buddy cop genre. It's what made him a name with the first Lethal Weapon film and all the other Lethal Weapon films from The Last Boy Scout, to his filmography as a director with Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and now The Nice Guys. And The Nice Guys really does feel like a film that really probably influenced Shane Black, but you're really not aware of until he gives some interview and gives a list of, his 5 favorite movies, and you're like, what's this? And you end up watching it. Almost like how Tarantino takes genres and has fun with them and makes them, the genre kind of statement of his dreams. Shane Black's sort of kind of doing that, but he's not really giving it a statement. He's just flat out doing that kind of movie, but it works really well with someone like Shane Black at the helm. You do remember things he's done like Lethal Weapon, particularly with women falling out of the sky. I don't know what the deal is with his fetish with that, but clearly there's something going on. I'd really like to know. It's just very strange that he's had it happen, especially one that's so iconic, but whatever. And it definitely shows one thing that Shane Black has always been really great at, whether it's when he's just writing a film or both writing and directing it, is bringing out the natural charisma of actors. He did it with Mel Gibson and Danny Glover, and particularly with Robert Downey Jr. and Val Kilmer, and really started what ended up being Robert Downey Jr.'s major career comeback, and even directed Iron Man 3. And he's really naturally good at bringing out charisma. And when you have two actors with such great charisma between each other and great chemistry, Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling, it really makes this film a lot more fun. It reminds you of when Hollywood cared a little bit more about the stars than the actual idea of the film or the concept or what they're adapting. It seems like the charisma is what's selling it. There's a lot of points in this movie that you'll probably forget about. You'll really think of the plot. Even though I kind of like the whole idea of the plot, they don't really have as much fun with it as most movies that are kind of about a hidden movie, which this movie takes on with the porno movie they're kind of finding and the whole deal with that. I wish the film maybe had gotten into that. It feels like kind of an afterthought. And really most of the plot, like they'll go into situations situations, and it's really more about their chemistry, but that chemistry is so good you're kind of like okay with it. Certainly that's something the later Lethal Weapon films really took advantage of, but The Nice Guys has a lot of fun with it. You almost feel like while you're watching it that Walter Matthau would have been in this had this actually come out in 1977, like Walter Matthau and Burt Reynolds, like that kind of a plus movie star. And the performances you're getting out of this, you're getting kind of A plus movie star performances out of the two leads. But it also makes me really believe that Shane Black, as rebellious and as witty and as cynical as he is, really believes in Hollywood. He believes in the mid-budget picture, but he also believes that a tight Hollywood screenplay is the best and greatest thing you could ever have. It's very telling that he decided to make a mid-budget film, not a cult movie, not a dangerous kind of spaghetti western. He's not really trying to say anything politically, maybe under the surface a little, but not really. He probably thinks he is, but it's not really there. This is the kind of film that would play at a multiplex, that would be a very controlled, kind of very directed picture, and that's the kind of stuff he really likes. Now that doesn't mean he's bad or anything like that, and I'm not trying to like judge him for his more kind of, you know, suburban and typical film tastes that aren't really as adventurous as his dialogue highlights, but it is interesting that someone who claims to know film as well as he does almost seems to love it through particularly a Hollywood perspective. And since this film is very much a Los Angeles movie, that kind of all sets together. It's like he's cynical of Hollywood, but he definitely loves it. This whole idea of this movie is based on chemistry. It's not based on earning it with a plot or a concept and selling something that you have to sell to the public through other means. This is solely about both like selling the charisma and the chemistry of these two leads and also believing in a Hollywood star system that really has gone away. Maybe that's why he said it in the past, because this is very much a past movie, and it feels like he's really loved the star system in a way, and he misses it, and he liked writing screenplays and directing movies for it. I think there is a certain glory in how he does that. It does feel very much like a Los Angeles sunshine noir, as we call them. Reminds you of Chinatown and Who Framed Roger Rabbit type of, you know, vast conspiracy to get things done. That works really well in LA for whatever reason. I guess it's the various set pieces you can do and things like that. Shane Black's direction seems to favor, much like the screenplay and the whole movie itself, the acting over anything else. It feels so untechnical in a lot of what it's doing. Like certain shots when I was watching the movie in the theater, I thought like, did they screw up the projection and like zoom in too hard? It feels a little like rough, oddly enough. You know, certain shots didn't, so I know like they didn't suddenly screw up the projection or something, but it felt like that. You know, I was like, what's going on? It's so weird. It's like not very well shot in some sequences. Maybe he's being smart and he's trying to do kind of those crappier mid-budget Hollywood movie type of film where they would kind of get away with that in the 70s. I kind of don't think he was, but if he was, kudos to him. I think that was, you know, pretty smart if he did that, but it also kind of made the movie look crappier. I don't know why he did that in a way. Ryan Gosling was very good in this movie. It's probably like his most star-making role in this. Obviously he's already a star, but it's the kind of difference between when you're a known star who's acting in things and when you're a movie star that people will go see a movie for. And although he's still playing this very much this damaged dad who's looking after his teenage girl Holly, who's assisting these two guys doing detective work throughout the whole movie, he has this kind of both loose cannon kind of thing that Shane Black's always good at writing those, and that's certainly the highlight character of any Shane Black movie if you think about it. It just fits perfectly like a glove, and Ryan Gosling steps up to that kind of an acting role like you expect him to. Russell Crowe's playing more of the straight man. This is probably the most I've liked Russell Crowe in I don't know how long. I'm not really a huge fan of Russell Crowe. He certainly like gained a little bit of weight. He looks kind of fatter and bloated and kind of given up on life, but I kind of like that Russell Crowe. I don't really want fit movie star Russell Crowe. I want this kind of Russell Crowe. He doesn't really give a shit. He's gonna do what's right, but most of the time he's very cynical and doesn't care. And I think Russell Crowe exudes that very well. These are kind of the Shane Black archetypes, but they both play them very well and play off each other very, very well. Without Russell Crowe as the straight man, Ryan Gosling couldn't have as much fun as he's having. I particularly like the girl who plays Holly, Ryan Gosling's daughter in this, Angarine Rice, I think. I don't know. She was really kind of a precious, you know, cute 12-year-old detective attractive girl, but she does it really well. Shane Black's very good. If you saw Iron Man 3, really good with kid actors. I think he gets genuinely awesome kid performances from them. It actually kind of reminded me of Tatum O'Neal, very much going into the whole 70s thing. I could see Ryan O'Neal doing a movie like this back in the day. Keith David I wish was utilized a lot more, but I feel like he was definitely probably cast because he's Keith David. Anytime I see Keith David in the opening credits, I know I'm gonna like this movie to a certain degree because I love Keith David. Keith David is an amazing actor. For They Live in the Thing alone. Matthew Bomer, a lot of people have complained about Matthew Bomer's role, that he doesn't really get enough to do in this movie. I kind of like him as a late movie surprise. I think you don't really get a psycho crazy killer like that in movies anymore. And sure, he did a great job with it, and it would have been great to see him in more of the movie, but I kind of like the small little part he has in it. I think it's a nice little surprise in the film. It's like a highlight you need at that point, and it brings it out and makes this film a lot more enjoyable because of it. And I don't think it would have the flow it does if they brought him out too early. I think it's perfect, but I understand he was so good you want to see more of him. I get it. Kim Basinger is pretty much wasted, and I don't really like that. You have this reunion from LA Confidential with Russell Crowe and Kim Basinger, and you think they'd utilize her more, and they really don't. She wasn't really good in the scene she was in, and I would actually like somewhat of a Kim Basinger comeback. I know that's probably going to happen with the 50 Shades of Grey sequel and so forth, but at this point I would have liked her to have done more. I think it's kind of lame she didn't. This was kind of just, for me, a fun throwback movie. I liked seeing a fun throwback movie at the multiplex like this, and one that does it as well as it does. One that believes in Hollywood but is still trying to be cynical, almost believing in the cynical Hollywood kind of picture. Believing in the system but also being cynical about it. And Shane Black's quite good at that. His directorial career, it feels like, you know, this kind of is more in line with Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. It seems from the projects he's picking in the future, and from the 3 movies he's done, being Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, Iron Man 3, and The Nice Guys, that he has his kind of more Shane Black type movies, and then he has his bigger movies. I think it's actually cool he came back and did a movie like this. I was kind of wondering, like, once he had all this power with something like Iron Man 3, I'm kind of glad he did something like this, but I don't want to overemphasize this movie. I think, you know, it's a good, charismatic, fun night at the movies, but it's not, in terms of its genre and what it's doing, it's not a hugely amazing film or anything like that. I think Kiss Kiss Bang Bang might be a little better at what it's doing. It just feels kind of modest in a 70s existential way, which is kind of nice to see, but it's not an amazing film. When someone goes back to these kind of things, everyone kind of freaks out about it because you don't see those kind of films anymore, and certainly people would love Hollywood to make those kind of films, but that's not a good enough a reason for me to just give a film a good review on this hypothetical thing that might possibly happen. To me is kind of stupid. I don't know. I still think this film is quite enjoyable, and if you're gonna have a nice evening in at the movies, or even go to the movies and see a nice kind of fun, very digestible Hollywood movie, this is absolutely a perfect choice. Don't let this film kind of blow itself up more than it is, because that would actually be doing a disservice for the film itself, because the whole idea of a film like this is a modest, smaller Hollywood kind of a film that you just kind of eventually get around to renting and go, oh, that was fine and interesting, and then, you know, some weird screenwriter will get too obsessed with it and make a better version of it when he has a little more power or something like that. The Nice Guys is a nice little retread and a nice, fine, very Hollywood type of movie, but I don't know if it's very much more than that, and makes me kind of think of better 70s movies, but I think Shane Black is probably thinking of those as well. And as much and as wonderful it is to think back at that time, I'd much rather probably go back and watch one of those older movies, but this is a fine enough substitute that I had a good enough time at the movies, and I'm fine with that. It was nice. So if you have seen The Nice Guys and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.